This is the untold story of how James Garner transformed Tom Selleck from a struggling actor into one of television's biggest stars. For decades, Selleck has credited Garner as his mentor, but it wasn't until 2025, 10 years after Garner's death, that Selleck finally revealed the full extent of what this Hollywood legend taught him. What emerged was a story about one conversation in a van, one piece of advice, and one decision that changed the trajectory of Selleck's entire career. Tom Selleck is known for being private about his personal life and relationships. So when he published his memoir, You Never Know, in May 2024, fans were surprised to discover extensive passages dedicated to James Garner. These weren't just casual mentions. Selleck laid bare exactly how much he owed to the man he called his friend and teacher. Today, we're going to walk through the complete story of their relationship, from their first meeting on the set of the Rockford Files in the late 1970s, to the career-defining advice Garner gave Selleck that made Magnum P.I a household name, to Selleck's emotional tribute when Garner died in 2014. Before we understand what Garner meant to Selleck, we need to understand who James Garner was. Born James Scott Bumgarner on April 7, 1928, in Norman, Oklahoma, Garner became one of Hollywood's most respected actors. He served in the Korean War, earning 2 Purple Hearts during his 14-month tour. After returning home, he eventually found his way to acting. Garner's breakthrough came with the TV Western Maverick, but it was the Rockford Files that cemented his place in television history. The show ran on NBC from September 13, 1974, to January 10, 1980, producing 122 episodes across 6 seasons. Garner played Jim Rockford, a private investigator with a unique approach to his work. Unlike the smooth, always winning detectives that dominated TV, Rockford was flawed, got beat up, struggled to pay his bills, and charged just $200 a day plus expenses. The show was a massive success. TV Guide later ranked it number 39 on their list of the 50 greatest TV shows of all time. By 1989, the Rockford Files had generated $125 million in revenue from network and syndicated runs. That's approximately $317 million in today's money. Garner wasn't just the star. Through his company Cherokee Productions, he was a producer with real power in Hollywood. Garner won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in 1977. He received 15 Emmy nominations throughout his career and was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 1990. In 2004, he received the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award. His only Academy Award nomination came in 1985 for Murphy's Romance. But Garner was known for more than his awards. He was respected throughout Hollywood for his professionalism, his modesty, and his treatment of everyone on set. As he once said, "I'm a Spencer Tracy-type actor." His idea was to be on time, know your words, hit your marks, and tell the truth. Tom Selleck's path to stardom was far from guaranteed. Born Thomas William Selleck on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan, he initially attended the University of Southern California on a basketball scholarship. Standing 6'4", Selleck seemed destined for sports, not acting. But he dropped out his senior year to pursue an acting career, a decision that meant years of struggle and small roles. By the late 1970s, Selleck had been grinding away in Hollywood for years with little to show for it. He'd served in the California Army National Guard from 1967 to 1973, reaching the rank of sergeant, and had picked up small parts in various TV shows and commercials. But the breakthrough role remained elusive. Then came the opportunity that would change everything: 2 guest appearances on the Rockford Files. In October 1978, Tom Selleck appeared in an episode of the Rockford Files titled White on White and Nearly Perfect. He played a character named Lance White, and the role was specifically designed as a comedic foil to Jim Rockford. While Rockford was rough around the edges, struggled to make ends meet, and got punched in the face regularly, Lance White was impossibly perfect. He was handsome, smooth, beloved by the police, and had incredible luck. Everything went right for Lance White. The character was written by Stephen J. Cannell as satire, poking fun at the unrealistic TV detectives that were popular at the time. The episode was a hit, earning an 8.9 rating on IMDb. The chemistry between Garner and Selleck was undeniable. Viewers loved watching the contrast between Rockford's cynical realism and White's absurd perfection. CBS head of programming Harvey Shepard saw something special in Selleck during these episodes. He became convinced that Selleck could be a star. Selleck returned for a second Lance White episode on November 16, 1979, called Nice Guys Finish Dead. This episode also featured Larry Minetti, who would later become Selleck's co-star on Magnum P.I. The episode earned an 8.7 rating on IMDb. Multiple sources confirmed these two appearances were instrumental in launching Selleck's career. Industry insiders who saw Selleck on the Rockford Files knew they were watching someone with genuine star potential. But more importantly, these episodes gave Selleck something priceless: access to James Garner. Sometime around 1979 or 1980, between or shortly after filming those Rockford Files episodes, Tom Selleck found himself with a problem. He'd been offered the lead role in a new CBS series called Magnum P.I. It was the kind of opportunity struggling actors dream about. But Selleck hated the script. The original concept presented Thomas Magnum as a James Bond type. Perfect, smooth, always surrounded by beautiful women and expensive cars, including a Ferrari. To Selleck, the character felt hollow and generic. He knew the show would fail if they made Magnum just another too-cool-for-school TV hero. Selleck needed advice, and he knew exactly who to ask. He approached James Garner. What happened next became the defining moment of Selleck's career, and he's told this story consistently for decades. The two men sat in Garner's van after a day of shooting. Selleck explained his dilemma. The producers wanted him, but he wanted to fundamentally change the character. Should he take the role as written, or should he risk the entire opportunity by demanding changes? Garner looked at him and delivered advice that Selleck would remember for the rest of his life. As Selleck recounted, Garner said, "I'm not telling you what to do, but I'll tell you this. You don't have any power. But if they want you, you will never have more power than you do right now." Those words unlocked everything. Garner was teaching Selleck a fundamental truth about Hollywood. Actors have the most leverage before they sign the contract. Once you're committed, once filming starts, once millions of dollars are invested, you've lost your negotiating position. But if the studio really wants you, if they've decided you're the one, that moment before you sign is when you can demand what you need. Armed with this advice, Selleck went back to the producers of Magnum P.I. He didn't just ask for small tweaks. He demanded a fundamental reimagining of the character. He wanted Thomas Magnum to be flawed, to struggle, to be more of a blue-collar everyman than a slick secret agent. He wanted Magnum to have elements of Jim Rockford, that same vulnerability and humanity that made Garner's character so beloved. The producers agreed. They wanted Selleck badly enough to let him reshape the show. And that decision made all the difference. Magnum P.I. premiered on CBS on December 11, 1980, less than a year after the Rockford Files ended its run. The timing wasn't coincidental. CBS needed something to fill the detective show void that NBC's Rockford Files had left behind. But thanks to Garner's advice and Selleck's insistence, Magnum P.I. wasn't just a clone. Yes, both shows featured private investigators who drove iconic vehicles. Rockford had his gold Pontiac Firebird. Magnum had a Ferrari. Both had catchy theme songs composed by Mike Post and Pete Carpenter. And both balanced action with humor and character development. But Thomas Magnum was his own character, flawed and relatable in the way Selleck envisioned. The show was a massive success. It ran for 8 seasons, producing 162 to 163 episodes. During its first 5 years, Magnum P.I. consistently ranked in the top 20 U.S. programs. In the 1982-83 season, it reached number 3 in the Nielsen ratings. Selleck won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in 1984. He won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Television Series Drama in 1985. He received 5 Emmy nominations for the role and became one of the most recognizable faces on television. None of this would have happened without James Garner's advice. Selleck knew it and he never forgot it. In his 2024 memoir, Selleck wrote about the leadership lessons he learned from Garner and applied to Magnum P.I. He explained, Jack Lord had said I was in a position to make the crew a family. I was well aware of that thanks to my friend and mentor James Garner. Each of them had made that point in his own way, but it was a reminder of my obligation as the guy to provide the leadership to help make that happen. But here's something interesting that Selleck also revealed. Garner never wanted to be called a mentor. As Selleck said in 2016, "It's kind of like my mentor, who never wanted to hear he was my mentor, James Garner. I don't accept the mentor role." This was classic Garner, humble, deflecting praise, uncomfortable with the pedestal people tried to put him on. Their relationship didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Throughout the 1980s, as both men became television icons, they maintained their friendship. Selleck tried to honor Garner's influence in various ways. In November 1987, a Magnum P.I. episode titled Tiger's Fan aired with a direct homage to the Rockford Files. Selleck also championed an idea that unfortunately never came to fruition. He wanted James Garner to guest star on Magnum P.I. as Jim Rockford. This would have been an incredible television crossover, bringing together two of the most beloved private investigators in TV history. But the crossover never happened due to unresolved rights issues between production companies. Still, Selleck found ways to honor his mentor. When Garner published his autobiography, The Garner Files, in 2011, Selleck contributed to it. The two men had maintained their relationship for over 30 years at that point, from the late 70s all the way into Garner's final years. But Garner's health was declining. He'd suffered a stroke in May 2008. Years of doing his own stunts on the Rockford Files had taken their toll on his body. As Garner himself explained, "I couldn't take that many beatings anymore. Every hiatus, I had a knee operation for 5 straight years, and sometimes for both knees." On July 19, 2014, James Garner died at his home in Brentwood, Los Angeles. He was 86 years old. The cause of death was a heart attack caused by coronary artery disease. He'd been married to his wife Lois Clark for nearly 58 years. When news of Garner's death broke, Hollywood mourned. Clint Eastwood said, "Garner opened the door for people like Steve McQueen and myself." Sally Field, Garner's co-star in Murphy's Romance, said, "My heart just broke. There are few people on this planet I have adored as much as Jimmy Garner. I cherish every moment I spent with him and relive them over and over in my head. He was a diamond." But perhaps no tribute was more meaningful than Tom Selleck's. Through the Associated Press on July 19 and 20, 2014, Selleck released a simple, heartfelt statement that was syndicated to CBS News, The Washington Times, The Seattle Times, The San Diego Union Tribune, and news outlets across the country. The statement read, "Jim was a mentor to me and a friend, and I will miss him. That's it. Just 20 words. But those words carried the weight of over 35 years of friendship, gratitude, and respect." Selleck didn't need to elaborate for those who knew their story. Everyone in Hollywood understood what Garner had meant to Selleck's career and life. As Variety noted in their coverage, Tom Selleck is fond of saying that every actor should take star lessons from James Garner. The Hollywood Reporter wrote that James Garner was a grand master of invisible acting, one of the last of a dying breed of old-school American performers who made everything look laid-back, laconic, and natural. For 10 years after Garner's death, Selleck continued to speak about his mentor in interviews, but always briefly, always with that same humble respect. Then in May 2024, Selleck published his memoir, You Never Know, and readers discovered just how deeply Garner had influenced him. The book contains extensive passages about Garner, going beyond the famous career advice story to explore what Selleck learned about leadership, professionalism, and grace under pressure. Selleck wrote about how Garner taught him that being the star of a TV show meant more than just acting well. It meant setting the tone for the entire production, treating every crew member with respect, and understanding that your attitude affects everyone around you. One particularly revealing passage shows how Selleck connected lessons from both Garner and Jack Lord, the star of Hawaii Five-0. Selleck wrote, "There was no school for that, but I'd had Jim Garner as my teacher." He was referring to the unique challenges of being the lead actor on a television series, a role that requires you to essentially run a small business while also delivering a performance every day. Selleck also revealed charming personal moments. At an appearance at the 92nd Street Y in 2024, He told a story about nearly hitting Garner with a golf ball at a par 3 course before they'd ever worked together. At a little par 3 golf course, I hit an errant shot, which was my customary golf shot, and it flies up in the air and almost hits Jim Garner. I never told him that. The audience laughed at the image of young Tom Selleck, years before fame, almost accidentally injuring one of Hollywood's biggest stars. When asked directly about Garner during this appearance, Selleck's response was simple and genuine. "I just love James Garner." The story of James Garner and Tom Selleck is about more than just two actors or two TV shows. It's about mentorship in an industry that often prioritizes competition over generosity. Garner didn't have to help Selleck. By 1979, Garner was already a legend with nothing to prove. He could have done the guest star appearances, collected his paycheck, and moved on. Instead, he saw something in this younger actor and took the time to share wisdom that only comes from decades of experience. That conversation in the van wasn't just about negotiating tactics. It was about understanding power dynamics, knowing your worth, and having the courage to fight for what you believe in. Selleck took that lesson and built a career that spanned Magnum P.I., the Jesse Stone TV movies, and 14 seasons of Blue Bloods, which ended on December 13, 2024. Throughout all of it, he maintained the professionalism and grace that Garner embodied. He treated his crews well, showed up prepared, and led by example, just like his mentor. The influence extends beyond Selleck too. Both the Rockford Files and Magnum P.I. helped establish the template for detective shows that balanced action, humor, and character development. Future shows like Castle, Psych, and Monk owe a debt to the groundwork these series laid. Interestingly, there's even a musical connection between the two shows. Mike Post and Pete Carpenter composed the iconic theme songs for both the Rockford Files and Magnum P.I. Post was actually high school classmates with Tom Selleck at Grant High School, graduating in the class of 1962. When asked about composing the Magnum P.I. theme, Post said, "It was very easy to do because I knew the characters so well. I'd gone to grammar school, junior high, and high school with Tom Selleck and have been friends with him my whole life." The Rockford Files theme even reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 in August 1975 and won a Grammy Award. For decades, Tom Selleck has been telling anyone who would listen that James Garner changed his life. But it wasn't until 2024, with the publication of his memoir You Never Know, that the full story finally came into focus. What emerged wasn't a tale of a big star doing a favor for a nobody. It was the story of a generous mentor who saw potential in a struggling actor and gave him the exact advice he needed at the exact moment he needed it. One conversation, one piece of advice. "You will never have more power than you do right now." Those words transformed Selleck from someone who might have starred in a forgettable TV show into someone who created an iconic character that resonated with millions. They taught him to trust his instincts, to fight for his vision, and to understand that sometimes the biggest risk is playing it safe. James Garner died on July 19, 2014, but his influence lives on through Tom Selleck and countless others he touched throughout his career. As Selleck wrote, "There was no school for that, but I'd had Jim Garner as my teacher." That's the true story of how James Garner shaped Tom Selleck's career, and why Selleck has spent decades making sure the world knows it. It's a reminder that in an industry built on ego and competition, sometimes the greatest legacy you can leave is the wisdom you share with the next generation. James Garner understood that, and Tom Selleck has never forgotten it.